Welcome, occultists, to another video. Make sure to hit the like button and share for more scary content. Working the night shift at Oakwood Mental Institution was supposed to be just another job, a way to pay the bills while I figured out what to do with my life. The institution had a reputation, sure, but I didn't believe in ghost stories or the supernatural. I was a rational man, grounded in reality. The place was old, built in the early 1900s. It had that classic institutional feel, sterile, white walls, narrow hallways, and a constant hum of fluorescent lights. During the day, it was a bustling hub of doctors, nurses, and patients, but at night, it transformed. The quiet was almost oppressive, broken only by the occasional murmur of a patient or the echo of distant footsteps. My job was to monitor the security cameras and do rounds every few hours. Easy money, I told myself, but there was something about those long, lonely nights that gnawed at me, a sense of being watched, of not being entirely alone. One night, around 2 a.m., I was sitting in the security office, half watching the monitors while scrolling through my phone. The screens showed the usual: empty hallways, sleeping patients, nothing out of the ordinary. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed movement on one of the screens. A figure, standing at the end of a hallway. I leaned in, trying to get a better look. The figure was tall and thin, dressed in a hospital gown. Its face was turned away from the camera. I picked up the radio and called for backup, but there was no response. I was alone. My heart pounded in my chest as I grabbed my flashlight and left the security office. The hallways were eerily quiet, the only sound my footsteps echoing off the walls. I followed the route from the camera, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. When I reached the end of the hallway, it was empty. The figure was gone. I shone the light around, searching for any sign of movement, but found nothing. I turned to head back to the security office when I heard it. A whisper, so soft I almost missed it. "Help me!" I froze, the hair on the back of my neck standing up. The voice was faint, coming from somewhere nearby. I followed the sound, my heart racing. It led me to the old wing of the hospital, a section that had been closed off for years. The door was ajar, a faint light spilling out into the hallway. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, the smell of decay overwhelming. My flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The room was empty, save for a single hospital bed in the center, covered with a dirty sheet. I approached the bed, my heart pounding in my ears. As I got closer, I saw something moving under the sheet. I reached out, hands shaking, and pulled it back. The bed was empty. I stumbled back, the sheet falling to the floor. My flashlight flickered again, and the room seemed to grow darker, the shadows deeper. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut, the sound echoing through the empty halls. I ran to the door, pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I pounded on the door, shouting for help. The whispers grew louder, filling the room, overlapping and indistinguishable. "Help me! Find me! Save me!" The room grew colder, my breath visible in the air. The shadows seemed to move, creeping closer, surrounding me. I backed into a corner, flashlight clutched in my hand, its beam flickering weakly. Then the whispers stopped, replaced by a low, guttural growl. I turned the flashlight towards the source of the sound, and my heart nearly stopped. Standing in the center of the room was the figure from the camera, its face still hidden in shadow. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. The figure stepped closer, the growl growing louder. "You should not be here," it said, its voice a raspy hiss. I pressed myself against the wall, fear paralyzing me. The figure reached out, its hand skeletal and cold. Just as it touched my shoulder, the flashlight went out, plunging the room into darkness. For a moment, there was nothing but silence and the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then, the lights flickered back on and the door swung open. I stumbled out into the hallway, heart pounding, sweat pouring down my face. The hallway was empty, the whispers gone. I ran back to the security office, slamming the door behind me. I checked the monitors, but everything was as it should be. Empty hallways, sleeping patients. I sat down, trying to calm my racing heart. It had to be a hallucination, a trick of the light and my own exhausted mind. But as I replayed the events in my head, I knew it was something more. The rest of the night passed in a blur, every sound, every shadow putting me on edge. When my shift finally ended, I left the hospital swearing I would never return. But the experience stayed with me, haunting my dreams, the whispers echoing in my mind.